This presentation is going to be all about cellular energy. We're focusing in on photosynthesis and cellular respiration. Glucose is sugar used for energy in organisms. The carbon in glucose is cycled between photosynthesis and cellular respiration in both plants and animals. Like we learned in the last unit, one characteristic of all living things is the need for energy. This includes plants, fungi, animals, like humans, and bacteria. That energy comes from glucose, which we learned in level 2 is a monosaccharide of carbohydrates. Your first keyword is glucose. Autotrophs make their own glucose through the process of photosynthesis. In photosynthesis, they absorb sunlight energy to convert it into chemical energy. Autotrophs include green plants and a few bacteria. Heterotrophs obtain glucose by consuming other organisms. This includes animals, fungi, and most bacteria. Because you are an animal, you are also a heterotroph. You don't make your own food by absorbing sunlight. You have to eat your food to get your energy. The energy that is stored in the bonds of glucose is used to do work in the cell. This work includes mechanical work, which is like the movement of sperm, transport work in the cell membrane, and chemical work at the site of an enzyme. Your second keyword is is. Rather than burn up all the energy of a glucose molecule at once, cells convert the energy into smaller reusable molecules known as ATP. ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate. The tri in triphosphate stands for 3, telling you that there are 3 phosphate groups. ATP can change into ADP. The overall structure of the molecule is the same, but instead of having 3 phosphate groups like adenosine triphosphate, ADP has 2 phosphate groups to make it adenosine diphosphate. ATP is best known to carry energy. It is not useful for long-term energy storage. It simply carries the energy from the glucose to wherever it is needed in the cell. This energy is kept between the last 2 phosphate groups of ATP in the high-energy bond. ATP releases this energy by removing the last phosphate group and becoming ADP. Cells can temporarily store energy by adding the phosphate back on to ADP to make ATP. The process is easily reversed. The energy to do this actually comes from foods like glucose. It's like recharging the battery. ATP is great for transferring energy. ATP is great for transferring energy, but not good for storing large amounts of energy for the long term. Remember, ATP just carries the energy. A single molecule of glucose stores more than 90 times the chemical energy that ATP can hold. Your third keyword is A. From beginning to end, we can see how different organisms retrieve this energy. Autotrophs first absorb sunlight in photosynthesis within their chloroplasts. Then, in their mitochondria, they break down the glucose that they made to convert the energy into the more usable form of ATP. Heterotrophs do not perform photosynthesis, so they first consume glucose in the form of food, and then in their mitochondria also break it down to the more usable form of ATP. Your fourth keyword is sugar. Photosynthesis is the process autotrophs use in the presence of light to transform H2O, CO2 into glucose and release oxygen. Be sure you understand the common name and the molecular formula. For example, you need to know both glucose and C6H12O6. In this graphic, you can see the reaction revolving around the chloroplast. The left side shows the reactants, or what goes into the reaction, and the right side shows the products, or what is produced from the reaction. Light energy is needed to drive this reaction towards the products. Your fifth keyword is used. Enzymes for photosynthesis are in the chloroplasts. Because this is a chemical reaction, there are enzymes involved to make this process move faster. Like I said, these are located in your chloroplasts. Inside the chloroplasts are thylakoids. These are sac-like photosynthetic membranes. Remember that the structure of anything will dictate the function. The stacks of thylakoids increase the surface area of the photosynthetic membranes to allow more chemical reactions to happen, which increases the amount of product, or glucose, that is made. Your sixth keyword is 4. Cellular respiration is the reverse of photosynthesis. In this process, energy from glucose is released through a series of energy-extracting reactions to make ATP. Organisms use oxygen in the process to break down glucose and put out carbon dioxide, water, and energy in the form of ATP. In this graphic, you can see the reaction revolving around the mitochondria. The right side shows the reactions, and the left side shows the products, or what is produced from the reaction. Your seventh keyword is energy. Cellular respiration is also chemical reactions and therefore requires enzymes to make it happen faster. These enzymes are found in the mitochondrion. The structure of the cristae folds in the inner membrane increases the surface area where ATP is made. This means that more ATP can be made at any given time. Let's compare photosynthesis and cellular respiration directly next to each other. We can see that the two equations are the exact opposite of each other. This shows us that the planet needs both reactions, and this is primarily because they are involved in the carbon cycle. Remember that carbon is one of the main atoms required for organic molecules like proteins, carbohydrates, lipids, and nucleic acids. The two equations are the exact opposites. Your eighth keyword is in. Here's another graphic that shows the relationship between cellular respiration, which is written as aerobic respiration in this image, it's the purple box, and photosynthesis, the green box. See that the arrows continue in an overall cycle. Your ninth keyword is organisms. Our presentation has now ended, so you can go ahead and enter your keyword sentence. Make sure to keep these notes because you will want to look back on them when we get to level 11 and level 12, all about photosynthesis and cellular respiration, a little bit more in depth.